Welcome to the 904 Prowl on United Football Media. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, catch all the great football content, all leagues, USFL, XFL, NFL, college. We got everything on the United Football Media. This is a brand new show dedicated to the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's a team that is really on the up and coming. It's my local team. I'm excited to cover it. This team is really good. We're going to jump right in. High expectations, right? Right on the rundown. We're going to go right down the rundown. This team has extremely high expectations this year. Probably the highest expectations for the Jaguars since the 90s. Think about that. Since the 90s. Yes, they've had playoff runs. Yes, they made it to the AFC Championship game a couple years ago. I guess it's almost half a decade ago. Yes, they've been successful, but they haven't gone into a season with expectations like they are right now. The team ended last year on fire. I was at the game against the Raiders and that comeback against the Raiders, and it just something clicked. Something clicked, and it took them all the way to the AFC semifinals, divisional round, whatever you want to call it. Lost to the Chiefs, who ended up winning the Super Bowl. Challenged the Chiefs for a good bit of that game. But now they come back to the 2023 season with very high expectations. Can they meet those expectations? Can Dougie P lead this team to the next step? Everyone around the country has already pegged them as the AFC South front runners. And one of those teams in the AFC that could challenge the Chiefs, and if they get on a good enough roll or catch the Chiefs on a bad day, they could catch up to the Chiefs. They've got a schedule that has the first place schedule. You got teams like the Chiefs and the Bills and the Ravens coming to town, or we're going there. But you also have 6 games where it's very manageable in your division, right? You've got 2 games against the Titans. Yes, the Titan games are always close. Yes, I understand that. Yes, I understand that if that whole thing with Dobbs changes, we're not talking like we are right now. The national narrative is not talking that the Jaguars are the up-and-coming team. Then you got 2 games against the Texans, who have a rookie quarterback, C.J. Stroud, a team going through a transition. And then you got the Colts, which you start on week 1, that have Anthony Richardson, which we'll get into more, obviously, this episode. So you've got to take care of business, get healthy, stay healthy. The progression of Trevor Lawrence is very essential for success. Him bonding with Calvin Ridley as the number 1 target. Think about that. Calvin Ridley is probably the best wide receiver that the Jaguars have had in a very long time. Are we going to go back to Jimmy Smith and McCardle? Like, I can't think of a time when you had a wide receiver playing for Jacksonville that was as talented as Calvin Ridley. And Ridley's done this in his entire life, his public life. Alabama, successful. Atlanta was successful. He hasn't played in 600 days. But what he's done in the preseason has shown that I don't think he's not losing that many steps. He's the number 1 target for sure on this team. The defense. We got to talk about the defense. The defense is a work in progress. Caldwell is going to call a great game. They're going to try to confuse the quarterback, especially when you're playing these rookies, which the Titans, by the time the Jags play the Titans, you could be seeing a Will Levis or a Malik Willis, which I would consider a rookie. I know he played last year, but he didn't play enough. Can you confuse them enough? Do you get enough pass rush from Walker, right? Number 1 pick, the kid out of Georgia, Trayvon Walker. He's got to get to the quarterback. Josh Allen's got to be successful. Then your 3 up front, whoever it is, Roy Robertson Harris, they need to be able to fill gaps take up 5. Those 3 guys need to take out the 5 linemen to open up the side for the pass rushers in this defense, and then the secondary's got to be solid. I really like the secondary, to tell you the truth. Jenkins, Campbell. I think it's a solid secondary. We'll see what it is. But the high expectations are there. And can Dougie P lead this team to the next step as they ended last season in a fury? Jags O versus Colts D. Who we taking? The Jags O, baby. It's the offense of the Jaguars. This offense should be high-powered, should be one of the top offenses in the league. You've got a generational quarterback with Trevor Lawrence. Huge fan. I'm a Clemson guy too, so I love Trevor Lawrence. I live in Georgia. I've followed Trevor Lawrence since he was about 14, 15 years old, and he was winning high school championships. Went to Clemson, won championships, and he's kind of doing the same thing here in Jacksonville. He's leading in the right direction. This is a generational talent. I hope we never see C.J. Beathard. Love the guy, and if we do, it's because there's a lot of blowouts. Then you got ETN. I think ETN will be able to run a little bit. Bigsby will be able to run this week. Bigsby will be able to run this week. Their defense, solid at the D tackles. Absolutely solid. DeForest Buckner, they are set. Grover Stewart, they play a 4-3 for the most part. Their D tackles are solid, but our offensive line is back, right? Outside of Cam Robinson being suspended and Walker Little replacing him, Ben Barch is back. We got a left guard. We should be able to run Schreff. We should be able to run the ball at their D tackles, tire out their D tackles. Their pass rush isn't the greatest. Shaq Leonard is pretty good at linebacker if he's healthy, right? Their secondary is atrocious. I would consider it one of the bottom 5 secondaries in the National Football League right now. They lost guys. Stephon Gilmore is gone. Quick, can you name the starting corners for the Colts? Dallas Flowers? Darrell Baker? The Jaguars receivers should be able to exploit this secondary all game. I will talk about my game predictions at the end, but I expect Calvin Ridley to have a solid game the entire time. A great debut, a great return, whatever you want to call it. I think this is a game that Calvin Ridley needs. This is the perfect team to see Calvin Ridley in game 1 so he can get his sea legs back. And I think him and Trevor's relationship will continue to grow as the season goes on. Zay Jones, Christian Kirk. I want to see Elijah Cooks. I want to see these guys get the ball in open space, and I think they can do this against the secondary and this defense. We all know a Gus Bradley defense. It'll be all right, but there's definitely places to exploit, and this roster is not talented enough to do what Gus Bradley wants to do, and I expect the offense to be very successful. Colts offense versus the Jags defense. Colts, obviously, the story on the Colts offense is Anthony Richardson, right? Debut, super athletic quarterback from the University of Florida, obviously. Probably one of the best athletes ever to be drafted to play quarterback. Super big arm, can run, tough. Doesn't have a ton of experience at Florida. I think that was part of the reason why he did not go above Bryce Young, who's smaller, or C.J. Stroud, guys that had experience at big programs. But this kid might have been drafted to the perfect franchise, right? They hire Shane Steichen. Who's he? The offense coordinator for Jalen Hurts and his progression over the last couple of years. That's a pretty good hire there to fit an Anthony Richardson. Jalen Hurts, one of the big things was the design quarterback runs. Anthony Richardson getting those play calls might play to his strengths. Like I said, he's got a great big arm. It's not 100% accurate. It's not one of the most accurate arms, but he can make every throw. I expect him to be at 50, 55% passing. He's not going to have it. Trevor's going to have the better day. But the Jags defense got to get to him. Got to be able to contain him. Hit him for his first game, right? You need guys like Roy Robertson Harris, right? To hit him. Hit him in the teeth. Josh Allen, same thing. But how about Trayvon Walker? We need Trayvon Walker. Trayvon Walker, please prove to be the number one pick in the draft this season and start week 1. We don't need to see it one play here and one play there. We need a very consistent play from Trayvon Walker. I think they get a couple interceptions off Richardson. Jags defense isn't the greatest. It's probably a middle of the pack defense. Caldwell will confuse Richardson. If you know anything about Caldwell, he's moving guys all the time, and they play the 3-4. So you could see a 4-man front, but there's a linebacker mixed in it. Like Caldwell is a good game piece chess operator. He definitely is, and I'm excited and expecting to see that this defense will be able to have a decent day against an athletic quarterback, which would be rare because Jalen Hurts tore us up last year. Athletic quarterbacks tend to do well against the Jags over the last couple seasons, so I'm expecting that is one of those things that it's got to get better. You're going to see a guy like Lamar down the road. Pat Mahomes, not super fast, but athletic to move Josh Allen. To win the AFC, you need to be able to beat athletic quarterbacks, and this is a perfect example of how to start the game plan for him. This might be the fastest one. This might have the biggest arm, but the roster around him is not completely solid, and Richardson will struggle, especially in his debut. Their wide receivers, Pittman is solid, but he's forced to be the number 1 in this offense. He really should be a number 2. Alex Pierce, McKenzie should be number 2, 3, 4 guys, but they are expected to be higher up with this offense. They are struggling in the running back room. We all know the drama that's going on with Jonathan Taylor. Zach Moss, questionable. So they got Deion Jackson. They got the rookie Evan Hull from Northwestern. Jake Funk. There's not a lot of running options there. Their rushing attack will be led by Anthony Richardson without a doubt. Their offensive line needs to improve. It was one of their strengths, even when the team wasn't that good. But last year, Quentin Nelson had a terrible year. One of the worst PFF grades of his career, especially. And Ryan Kelly, the center, another veteran, kind of had a down year last year. And it might have been the quarterback play. When you got the statue of Matt Ryan back there, it could be tough. It could be tough to hold your blocks for a long time. But the Jags defense got to come to play. I expect them to come to play. I hope to see Jamal Agnew a ton because that means he's returning kicks, and hopefully it's punt returns. We don't need kick returns. We don't need to get in a shootout. But I'm excited about this one. Game picks. Calvin Ridley is the best receiver on the field. He should be able to prove it. I say 8 catches, over 100 yards, and a score. I think Trevor's got to have 300 yards and 3 scores. The offense needs to score 30 points. It can't be a pick 6. For them to ascend to the top of the AFC, that offense got to be consistent and be able to kick teams when the teams are down. And the Colts are one of those teams that, yes, it's week 1 and no one's really down yet, but the teams need to take advantage of the teams that have less talent on the roster. And you see Kansas City do that all the time. The Patriots did it for so long. Be able to eat when there's food in front of you. And the Jags, this is one of those challenges that they have to take to go back to the high expectations because they're expecting to be playing in January and possibly February, right? This is the start of what they need to do to be able to be successful for January and February. Take care of the teams that really you should take care of easily. Final score 34-17. I think the offense does their job. Like I said, I think Trevor has 3 touchdowns. I think you have probably a defensive touchdown that gets you to 28, and then a field goal, 2 field goals from McManus. And I feel like this game should be in the bag. I feel like this should be one at halftime where you feel comfortable at halftime, and then you also feel good for the complete game effort. And that's going to be the end of the day story for the Jags to start those expectations, battling those expectations. Is how do you feel at the end of the day? A loss would kill you a lot, not a ton where your season's over, but this is one. People are saying they're supposed to be 13-4, 12-5. These are to get to those records, you have to win this one. All right, that's episode 1 of the 904 Prowl. I will try to do these episodes a couple times a week, especially during the season. Maybe a game preview, a game review, and then kind of a mid kind of week quick. I'm trying to keep them about 15 minutes, 20 minutes tops. Leave your comments, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Jags_UFM. Subscribe to the United Football Media because we've got great football content. Like I said, we got a lot of USFL, XFL stuff, but we're starting to branch out. We were just the USFL network. We're starting to branch out. And this is the first NFL show, the 904 Prowl. Jags get the first NFL show on the United Football Media. Who would have thought? All right, this has been Webb. It's the 904 Prowl. Duval.